What do you know about recovery? And are you somebody that you think needs recovery?
It's that, like I said, it's more of just leaning into the scriptures for me when it comes to recovery.
And then your other charges for criminal attempt assault third, where you're accused of putting a drug in a waitress's drink, and they had you on video. Is that something that you want to elaborate on at all?
Yes, I can.
Why you would do something like that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and buckle up, everybody, because we are about to watch another Connecticut parole hearing. And for this man who is a career criminal, and we'll go through his record at the end in the unpacking. But if you can imagine his strategy after going into the DOC, in and out, in and out, in and out, all these years later, his approach is to tell the parole board that he found God, that he is going to solve all of his problems through reading the scriptures. And we've seen this before, but what's remarkable is that someone can actually still go through everything that this man has gone through and think that is going to land with the parole board. No. He is singing to the wrong choir. He should be singing a very different tune if he wants to get out. But then again, you never know. It is the Connecticut Parole Board. So with that, let's jump in.
Lin B 313-652.
Thank you. This hearing is being conducted in consideration for parole application for Lin B 313-652. He is serving a sentence of 6 years execution suspended after 30 months with 3 years of probation for violation of probation, sales of narcotics, possession with intent in an attempt assault 3rd degree. As of today, records reflect a eligibility date of May 20th, 2025. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the following programs. Voices. Utilizing a statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, ScoreGo. Offender's overall score for recidivism falls in a high range. This offender also has a static 99 score of a 2, which is in the low to moderate range. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you think you should be. You may begin.
Yes. I'm at a point where that if I do not just accept the truth, and when I say truth, basically I'm in the spiritual sense where the duty of a man is to just fear God and keep the commandments. And I feel like anything other than that, I'm just not gonna win. It's just the reality that I'm not gonna win. So since I've been in here, I've just been concentrating on just reading the scriptures and just getting in tune with literally just following the law, following the law, which coincides with the law of earth, but just following the law and basically hearkening to the commandments. So curses don't come upon me. And that's just my whole life. I just been had a trouble spirit and not accepting how serious that is, just to have a spirituality, just accepting the seriousness of that. And honestly, I feel like that this time, basically, I feel like that is set in stone with me as far as literally just that's the spirit of truth, this truth and reality of this follow the commandments, man. That's just the reality of it and the seriousness of it. Not to take you to anything.
So, Mr.
That's it.
Berger, why do you think he should be granted parole?
I should be granted parole because I accept what I did, and came to the conclusion that this is not life. This is not life. And it's tiresome. it's weary and tiresome. That's just, it's weary and tiresome. I'm ready just to go back out and continue to do the positivity that I was doing before I came. You know, like I said, I got certain certificates. I got, you know, my CDLs. I had my job, still got my job. And before I came in, I was on an upward trajectory. But I know I had to come in. I know I had to face the music. But I'm just ready to get back out there just to can't do what I was doing before I came in. And that's to stay on that upward trajectory.
Okay, so we're gonna ask you questions, Mr. Bird. We'll each take
Yes, ma'am.
turns and then we'll deliberate on the record and give your answer. Mr. Poole will begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Byrne.
Morning.
So just a couple of things up front. One is that you applied for community release and were denied, right?
Yes, well, they denied me a TS. I never got the halfway house denial, but they denied, they sent me back a paper that said TS, transitional supervision denial. And I went over to the council, he don't understand why I got that specific paper back and not the community release halfway house paper back. So I don't know what's going on with that, but as far as getting denied, I did receive a transitional supervision denial.
So that I have just community release system, which is just the whole halfway house. So you've been out on supervision 8 times and probation. And 7 of those times it just violations, right? So you haven't been able to do well out there on probation. You back 15 years ago, you did a parole supervision that was basically 11 months that you were able to successfully complete. But as of lately, it's, you know, if you get out and you do things or you don't do things and you wind up with a denial or not a denial, a violation, which is, it's tough for us to look at, right? Because what we're supposed to be here for is suitability for parole. And what that means is that, in our opinion, based upon our experience, are you somebody who's likely to go out and stay free of criminal activity, right? And
Yes.
there's a lot of violations here, you know. To your credit, yet you don't have, you know, disciplinary reports while you're in there. You know, however, you took voices, which is a good program to take relative to what you had going on here. But there wasn't an addiction services program. And part of this happened in a bar, right?
Correct.
And we have, you know, sure it's legal, but you got, you know, your use of marijuana every other day. I think that's what you told the parole officer.
Yes, in my past, yes.
And you know, there isn't a tier program, like a tier 2 type of program. What do you know about recovery? And are you somebody that you think needs recovery?
What I know about recovery is, if it's a technical question. As far as myself with it, do I feel like I need recovery? Yes, but not on the level. Like I said, my recovery is more of like I said, spiritual. It's more, like I said, it was more involving me involving myself into the scriptures. That's the best recovery for me. And that answers that. I mean, like I said, it's you do things, there's consequences of your actions, and just knowing the seriousness of not doing what you're supposed to do, which I took advantage of, caused me to get in trouble. So it's that, like I said, it's more of just leaning into the scriptures for me when it comes to recovery.
So you don't think a program out here is something that you really need?
No, I would take. I mean, if I would take the program, I wouldn't deny it.
An ongoing program. But
Yes,
there's many paths of recovery.
Yes, you're right. Correct. I think mine is spiritual, but like I said, I will not denounce a program, a treatment program. I would not denounce that because everything goes hand in hand. So I would not denounce it. But
is it something that you're going to look for?
Yes, absolutely.
You want to go with your mother in Ansonia?
Yes, sir.
And you have experience landscaping?
I can't hear you. Excuse me.
You have experience landscaping?
Yes. It's
And
more
that's
of,
what you.
yeah. It's not so much cutting grass. It's more of, I got my applicator's license through the DEEP. So we're putting down chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. It's more that type of landscaping versus cutting grass and that in that sense. So we're just putting down a lot of.
So a lawn care company.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to pass it on and see if other people have questions.
Ms. Smith, okay.
So, Mr. Bird, you were on probation when you got arrested on the new charges for selling drugs?
Yes.
Okay. So what, if you were working, why were you selling drugs?
Honestly or not, it was something that at that time I just wasn't ready. I guess I wasn't ready to give it up. I just wasn't ready to give it up. It was more that was an addiction in itself, if that makes sense. That was just something I didn't need to do. But one thing I learned with that is just giving up like the so-called fame and you just thinking that made you somebody, if that makes it. At that time I felt like it made me who I was, even though I was working and doing everything I was supposed to do. I just felt like that, as far as it's how people viewed me, which was, now that I look at it, was nonsense. But at that time, it's the fame. It was the fame. I ain't gonna. That was
So
the
it
start.
wasn't really so it wasn't a money thing. It was a status?
It was a step. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then your other charges for criminal attempt assault third, where you're accused of putting a drug in a waitress's drink.
You are trash.
And they had you on video. Is that something that you want to elaborate on at all?
Yes, I can.
Why you would do something like that?
Yes, I can. I did not do that. That was on its way to trial. But because I had the VOP hearing, basically I was caught in a corner where they sent me to the VOP hearing. I was ready to do the VOP hearing. But when I got to that point, they came to me with an offer and told me to take 18 months flat, no probation, and would drop it because it was all felony. It was possession. It was a lot of charges with that situation.
It started out as an assault second
Right.
and a reckless endangerment.
And a possession of narcotic and an intent to sell. It was a sales in that.
Right.
And that, I don't know, I have all my reports, but there was never no drugs found. And the video, that is a fault. There was never no video. There was never no video. And that's why I did not want to go to trial. They told me there was a video. None of that came to the discovery. So,
Okay.
And
All
with
right.
that, okay, go ahead.
I'm just saying, so that's your explanation. You deny it occurred, but you pled guilty
Yeah.
because it was
I'm-
all part of a package.
Because of the fact, because it's a damn if I do, if I don't, with the VOP hearing. If I wasn't on violation of probation, if I wasn't on probation, I would have went, obviously, it would have went to the trial. But because I had the VOP hearing, it was more of, if you go to hearing, if we're gonna prove you guilty because you was absconding, you didn't show up. So that's automatically, you owe 5 years, so do you wanna, you have a time hanging, do you wanna play with that and come back to court on dead time? So that's basically, a lot of that was involved in that.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for explaining your version of it. All right, okay, thank you, Mr. Byrd. I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we have no further questions, Mr. Byrd. We're going to deliberate. You can listen but not say anything.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm concerned with, the current offense is just another situation where, offense was committed, not reported, and here we are.
Right.
I'm concerned that there wasn't a tier program there. I want to hear what fellow board members have to say.
So I can tell you that for me, Mr. Byrd, I did not hear any type of offender change. I know he did take the Voices program and he did not have any disciplinary reports. I too would have preferred Mr. Byrd to participate in a substance abuse program. And I know previously he said he had completed the MCC program while on probation, so for substance abuse treatment. But here we are again, with another violation, which he seems to have a few of them. And his idea of whether he wants to have recovery, it's concerning. I think if he had taken a tier program or an addiction services program, that it might shed a little more insight for him. So I had him denied for his criminal history on probation, poor performance, inadequate release plan.
I also had him denied for the same reasons. I did not hear much in terms of offender change. He's got 7 failures on community supervision, and his criminal record is concerning. It is a multitude of charges, including domestic violence, violation of protective order. But really primarily, he scores high for risk to recidivate, and there was very little evidence of offender change presented today.
Yes.
So he's just not suitable.
So we could have inadequate instead of inadequate release plan. So which ones did you want to do?
Go ahead.
Criminal history on probation, poor performance in the community, and inadequate evidence of offender change.
Or performance on probation.
On community release.
He wasn't on community release.
Well, I call it 7 failures. Were they all probation?
Right, but his performance was just on the 3 most recent one on probation.
Okay,
Well, current offense committed while on probation, I think is significant.
Yeah.
right, we can have that one.
Yeah. His criminal history and inadequate evidence of offender change.
But he also has 7 community failures, so that's why I added that one. So you can go with 3 or you can go with 4.
The 3 are criminal history,
Mm-hmm,
current offense committed on probation,
mm-hmm.
and adequate evidence of offender change.
Yeah. You go with that?
Yeah.
Okay. In the case of Lin Bird, inmate number 313652, there is a motion to deny discretionary parole due to criminal history, current offense committed while on probation, and inadequate evidence of offender change. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carries. So Mr. Bird, we could not help you today. We wish you much success.
All right now.
This concludes the hearing for Lin Bird 1365.
Can you imagine being in and out of the system for like almost your entire life? You're 41 years old, you get locked up again, you're coming up in front of the parole board, and you still don't have the insight, the knowledge, the whatnot to know that you should just show up and say the most simple things. All you have to do is say, I had a problem and I'm going to solve it. I'm going to do 90-90. I have a sponsor. I realize this and that. Just that. This parole board, they would have drank it up. They would have said, I see you are changed. We're going to, but no. What he says is, I found God. Okay, buddy, I'm going to follow the 10 commandments. That's what I have to do. And he's thinking in his mind, the parole board's going to say, hallelujah, parole for Tate. But of course, that won't work anywhere. And now let's go through his jacket. And, let's talk on the roofie thing. She goes to him, what about the whole thing with the roofie, and the waitress's drink? And what's his response? They don't have the footage of that. It never made it to discovery. They don't have footage. I just took the plea deal because, and any of it, is it possible that the police lied in the interrogation and said that they had footage? I don't know how that would make it to the parole board or police report, though, or maybe the police who made the arrest saw the footage, but the DA didn't feel it was clear enough for it to make it to discovery. I don't really know. That's confusing to me. But he grasped at that one fact. It didn't make it to discovery. Not, I'm innocent. And I don't believe that he's innocent of that. And he took the deal, so he's guilty by law that he's guilty of putting it in the drink. And man, I just can't. For someone to do that, can you imagine you're on probation and you have forget, you don't even need to be on probation. Just in general, a 41-year-old man, any man, putting a roofie in someone's drink, putting a roofie in a waitress's drink. I guess what I'm trying to point at, the one is you're a sick pervert, dangerous person, and then the other is that you simply don't even care about yourself. You're on probation. You don't have to do that. It's crazy. This man is dangerous. That's what I'm getting at. How dangerous he is. And with all of that knowledge and all of that insight, and now how long his jacket is, and somehow he ranks a 2 on the static 99, which is high. It's hard to rank a 2. I don't know why he ranks a 2. If it's just his crime or there are other things that we don't know about. It is self-reporting. Maybe he admitted to having more victims. That would make sense. Someone doesn't just wake up one day and put a roofie in someone's drink. But let me just share with you, and this is just speculation. Let me just share with you what Lady Holly found. So, and I'll just brief through it. But this was a violation of probation when she got the 18 months max sentence for it. And I can say, the DA's agreed. Instead of doing the new charges, to violate it. Right? They don't want to go through the courts. He was fighting it, right? That's why there would even be discovery. Like, screw this. Let's just get him under probation. Let's do a plea deal. But it doesn't even make sense because they don't need to do a plea deal. Look how much time he's backing. Like, let me just show you. Just right here, he has a 5-year suspended sentence. They could have gone him for 5 years simply on that. So this is where it's a bunch of bull because they don't care. They could have gotten him just for that, locked him up for 5 years. Assault 3rd degree, probation 3 years. They could have gotten him for 3 years there. Assault 3rd degree. Oh no, I guess it's 1 year suspended. Okay, but I guess you could have run them consecutive. Okay, so assault 3rd degree, 1 year suspended, probation 3 years. Another one. Keep the interference with emergency call, assault 3rd, 1 year, They keep doing it. Here's 4 years jail suspended. Okay. Violation of protective order. I mean, it just keeps going on. Assault. Possession with intent to distribute. This one's a 6 years suspended after 30 months. I mean, I just don't know why they don't pile it on. Like, how does it work? Does it disappear? Does that suspension say, okay, after probation period, it's gone? Is that what it is? I mean, even if that's the case, this was still 2022. Attempt to commit assault third. I guess that's the most recent one, or these are the most recent ones. Oh, yeah, this is 2024 sentence date. Offense date 2019, arrest date 2022. How'd you get arrested all these years later? I don't even get that. I guess because of the probation. I don't know. It's confusing. I've been doing this for how many years, and the way that they handle these things, it's confusing. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it this way intentionally to confuse us, because it doesn't need to be this confusing. But there you have it. And oh God, I wonder what's going to happen when he gets out in his full term date, which is what? His full term date is 2/18/2026, in less than a year. What do you think is going to happen? Who's he going to roofie next? And with that, I'll let you go.
What do you know about recovery? And are you somebody that you think needs recovery?
It's that, like I said, it's more of just leaning into the scriptures for me when it comes to recovery.
And then your other charges for criminal attempt assault third, where you're accused of putting a drug in a waitress's drink, and they had you on video. Is that something that you want to elaborate on at all?
Yes, I
Of
can.
why you would do something like that?
Yes, I can.